All right, welcome back. Still good morning, Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And to our second topic, which borders on the engineering profession and Nigeria's prosperity, as the 32nd Engineering Assembly of the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, COREN, gets underway. Now, the nation's top engineers and stakeholders are gathering to shape the future of the profession.
Yeah, Larry, with the theme regulating engineering profession for shared prosperity in Nigeria, this year's assemble comes at a critical junction in our nation's development as Nigeria strives for economic growth, infrastructure development, and global competitiveness. The role of engineers has never been more crucial.
Now, COREN will delve into pressing issues such as professional standards, innovation and collaboration, aiming to harness the power of engineering for the benefit of all Nigerians.
Yeah, Yere, we are now joined by our guest who will tell us more about how engineering is shaping our nation's destiny. First, I'd like to introduce Professor Sadiq Zuba Abubakar is the President Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, COREN. Professor, you're welcome once again.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
All right.
And also here for the conversation, of course, also an engineer, Olu Ogunduyile, the Vice President, COREN. He's also the Chairman Organizing Committee for the 32nd Engineering Assembly. It's a pleasure to have you, and good morning, Nigeria, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
All right, let's just start with Professor Abubakar, who is the president of COREN, and let's find out how does COREN plan to strengthen regulation and enforcement to ensure professional standards in the engineering sector.
Thank you very much. We are very delighted to announce to the country and even in the diaspora the 32nd Assembly of Engineering Practitioners. Actually, it's not engineers. Engineering practitioners, because in the family of engineering practitioners, we have the engineers, we have the technologies, we have the technicians, the craftsmen, and the artisans. All these are within what we call the engineering family. And I would like to also declare that perhaps the Engineering Assembly is one of the largest gathering of professionals in this country. For the last 32 years, even this year so far, I think yesterday we were counting the registration, we have counted over 10,000 participants that are physically. And then we have now also allowed what we call the virtual participation. About 3,000.
Over 10,000 physical.
Yes, and then about 3,000 virtually across the globe, all over. Basically, I think COREN has been in existence for the last, since 1972, to be able to do basically two things. To standardize the training and education of all these categories of engineering practitioners, to also ensure that they have continuous professional development, to update their skill, their competencies, and their proficiencies. And then finally, to be able to regulate the practice of these category of practitioners. Regulation of the practice from the two perspectives. From what you call conduct of ethics, we have our, a benchmarking and what have you that you are supposed to do when you are practicing. And then most importantly, what you call code and standards. What you are supposed to do in terms of executing your practice or producing a product or whatever you are doing. Now, this will be consistent in it. And for us to be able to do it, first we have two categories. Every person that undergo a training from a formal or informal training institution need to be certified and registered so that we'll be able to regulate the registrants. They have the associations like the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Nigerian Association of Technologists, NTA, about 5 different associations. But we, as regulators, we have what we call the registrants. We don't have members. Registrant that we regulate, and regulation means you monitor their practice, you enforce compliance to all those standards,
Okay.
and if there is infraction or there is misconduct, you investigate it, and then if it is light, you warn the person. If it is deep, you now escalate the matter to what you call the disciplinary tribunal, where you can sanction and you can withdraw licensing. You know so many of the sanctions you can apply.
Professor,
as the case may be.
Professor Abubakar, listening to you keenly, I hear you talk about current being consistent in training, regulating, monitoring, enforcing compliance, and you say current has been there for about 52 years now. Yes. So how come quackery is still with us and we still have a lot of misconduct in the profession?
Well, basically two things. Quackery become popular because of the patronization of non-resistance by companies, by development bodies, by estate developers, by clients, because they want to have a very cheap but low quality service. If you are a qualified, practitioner, the charges for a service are high, and often they go around, they look for quacks who, with any amount, they will come, and we normally identify, and we normally furnish, we normally, but if you look at our country and then you look at the registered members that we have, there is grossly inadequate of the professionals, both in the public and the private sector. This is one. Second, when you have misconduct, often, we still have a gap in the area of what you call establishment of documentation that will allow us to do forensic investigation, to be able to track who is culpable on something. If you don't document the procedure, if for instance, you take a construction sector, while you are doing construction, and then you don't document who designed, who approved the design, all those procedures, you don't have the requisite documentation that you can verify. When you come to displaying or you come to furnish the empirical evidence that you require to be able to conclude the disciplinary tribunal process, we have what you call assessors, legal assessors to the caliber of sons. So it's a typical court when you go to our disciplinary tribunal, and if you don't have the evidences, then you begin to wander, around the process. But that area of documentation, to be able to have forensic, investigation where you can say, okay, this is at this point, this is the person that is culpable, or this organization, or this and this. These are some of the, I think, the gaps.
Okay.
That addresses some of this valid observation.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Abubakar. Let's come to the Vice President of Koren, Engineer Olu Ogunduile. Now, you are the Chairman, Organizing Committee for the 32nd Engineering Assembly of Koren. Tell us about this assembly. What are the expectations?
Thank you very much. The assembly is the largest gathering of engineering practitioners in Nigeria, and I would say even in the globe, because we are having the academia, the industrialists, the development promoters, the practitioners all gathered together. Like the president just said, we are having, yesterday when we were looking at our register, we have about 8,000. Now we're having 3,000 outside. Then we're having some virtual people all over the world, about 11,000 people that are the practitioners that will witness this. And there will be many others that will be joining on site that will come and register, who are not registered before. Now, we have, of course, we normally do our events at ICC, but because of the renovation that is taking place, we're using the dome, this dome center at the central area there. And we have actually made proper planning We're having the events in the main dome. We're having the exhibition at the back, because there's expanse of land at the back there. We're having people. We want to promote what we call local content.
Okay.
Nigerian manufacturers who actually are manufacturing, like Coleman. We have Nigerians who are practicing oil and gas, like Dover Engineering. We have Proforce, who actually manufacture armored cars for the armed forces. Those people will display their wares, what they are doing. And apart from that, you know, when we are looking at this engineering assembly, it is actually mandatory. It is actually, you must have what you call, to be able to collect your practicing license, because it's what we call MCPD. You must, this engineering assembly is one of the flagship program of Korean, because in this sector, we need to come together to see the development of regulation that will affect all critical sectors. We need to come together where you will look at it as a stakeholder and look at the critical gaps. How do we fill the gaps? And then as a family to talk about it, and then to be able to come strong. We know to also talk about this issue of Executive Order 5. We need to promote indigenous engineers to be able to come forth and then develop, and then they be promoted. The policymakers that are coming will listen and see the area where we need to have, where they need to promote Nigerians. And then, you see, engineers have no place to be unemployed. There are enough things to do in this country. We need to actually develop ourselves, give ourselves opportunities. If there are need for collaboration, if people want to come from abroad, they will practice with the local people here, so that we call capacity development will be there. These are the issues that we actually want to address in this particular forum.
All right, many thanks, Engineer Ogunduile. You talked about the fact that with this conference, MCPD, if you like, the practicing license will be given to engineers.
Yes, to engineers.
Is that why you have that large number, knowing that people just want to get a license? How do you want to validate that these people who will be getting practicing license as a result of attendance in this conference still have the requisite skill to continue to practice?
Of course, there are items, there are things to be done. One, not only attendance at the assembly. There are seminars, there are webinars, there are trainings, there are training that you have to actually involve in. We must see, there must be proof. If you're having maybe 100 marks, if the assembly has 25, there are other 75 to be fulfilled. Don't forget that even as a regulator of engineers, we also manage and regulate those the associations. They have seminars, they have training programs that they have to do, and these are we are making it mandatory so that people will update themselves and get themselves updated. So before you can, we need to fill the form. Oh, do you attend this? Which seminar do you attend? What training do you attend? How do you update yourself? So these are the areas that we'll use to be able to maybe graduate people to say, okay, yes, this one is practicing. And
then how do you ensure that those who are going to be participating, practice in the country? We're having a serious challenge in our hand, the Jackpot challenge, people, exiting the country, people getting trained here and going elsewhere to practice and all of that. So how are you trying to deal with that challenge within your own body?
That is not a big issue. It's fact. It will be another level of foreign exchange earning. Don't forget, Korean and South Africa, that is Korean for Nigeria and South Africa, they are the only two bodies that have joined the Washington Accord, the prestigious Washington Accord. That shows our certificate is attainable all over the world. Okay. That shows that even though if you go, look, check a country like India as a country. You have a lot of their practitioners in and around the world. They bring in foreign exchange earning into their country, up to about maybe $4 trillion every year, dollars. If you have that into this, it will strengthen our naira. And apart from that, when you now train people here locally, see, government also has a role to play. The role to play is not only that maybe we train people here, government must create an enabling environment where industry will crop up, and then we have production economy. When production economy comes in here, people will be gainfully employed, and there'll be a lot of things to do here locally.
Okay, thank you very much, Engineer Ogunduile. Now let's go back to the president now of the Koren, Professor Abubakar. Just like he said, I mean, Koren is doing a lot of things now, especially to develop the capacity of the engineers. Now, what do you think the government can do, you know, to actually encourage, to promote indigenous engineers, you know, to actually partake in the economic development and growth of this nation?
Thank you very much. I think there is already an existing framework.
Okay.
I'll look at it from two perspectives, the formal and the informal sector. In the formal sector, where you have the universities, the polytechnics, the monotechnics, and the technical colleges, it has been recognized since the 70s that aside the education that somebody will get and get certificated, you also must have what she mentioned, what we call the MCPD, Mandatory Professional Development, to be able to keep you up to date with four things. Knowledge gap, skill gap, proficiency gap, and proficiency gap. And because of that, ITF was established in this country. And the industries are paying 1% of, you know, whatever they have to ITF. That money is being kept in trust to be able to allow the graduates in sciences and engineering to have what we call the SAWES and the SWEV. And one important aspect which hitherto has not been well promoted, what we call engineering residency. It's mandatory, just like in the medical residency and other things, before you go to NYSC. Now, we have, for over 30 years, slowed down on that engineering residency. We are now resuscitating it. Because of the unemployability of our graduates, especially in the engineering and science segment, that aspect of the provision of funds to train, you know, students during education, you know, with the hands-on, and when they graduate, to have that mandatory one-year residency that will allow them to go into the, you know, the subsectors to really deepen the skill and the proficiency and the competencies. We are indeed, you know, appealing seriously to the government to allow the engineering bodies like the regulators and the association to synergize with ITF, like MBTE, like NUC, like MAN, or current, synergize with ITF to be able to ensure that we deploy that resources, because ITF is a fund, and they are giving that fund in trust for Nigerians, youth Nigerians, to be able to be trained. Now, this is one aspect, the formal sector. The informal sector, I'm happy to inform you that this current administration has formalized what we call the National Skill Council, where the vice president of this great nation is the chairman, the Minister of Education and Aliko Dangote are the co-chairs, and then we have some governors, some key critical ministers. Koren is a member, NUC is a member, MBT and MAN and other things. Now, this second initiative to us is a great opportunity for the country to move into the informal sector, where you have millions of artisans that are not classified, that are not certified, and that are not licensed and regulated. Now, this council is doing that now. And at this assembly, one of the councils, what we call Sector Skill Council for Engineering, is going to be inaugurated by the Senior Special Assistant of Mr. President on Technical, Vocational and Entrepreneurial Education. And of course, MBTE and NUC are, and even probably the Minister of Education may come. Now, this is one aspect that we really have to make sure that the human capital in this our sector, engineering and sciences, is given the full attention, which we know is one of the key goals of this current administration, you know, to be able to ensure that we indeed have the requisite, you know, skills. And happily, one of the global players, the chairman of what we call the Dublin Accord. Dublin Accord is a section of the International Engineering Alliance. Has arrived yesterday. He's the keynote speaker during this assembly, and he's going to guide Nigeria to package itself so that we can make you know, an application for Nigeria to join what we call Sydney Accord for the technicians and technologies, and Dublin Accord for the craftsmen and artisans.
Okay.
We have already, like the Vice President said, we have already been admitted in the Washington Accord for
What's
the
the benefit
engineers.
of joining those accords? What's the benefit of joining those accords?
Good. The benefit of joining those accords is that they will come and study your educational ecosystem and your training ecosystem. Once they find them comparable, competitive with the global standard, it means when you have a registered craftsman in Nigeria, he can go to anywhere
in the world
because he has been found now.
That
comparable.
encourages the Japa phenomenon also. So that leads me to my question now, because you know, listening to Engineer Ogundiyile, he talked about the fact that foreign exchange comes in as a result of the Japa phenomenon, as it being not a problem. So the question is, having those who are well trained leave the country and then leaving us with, if you like, quacks, and for the civil engineering sector, for example, we're having collapsed buildings and people dying.
Yes.
So which, if you want to lay it at, you know, side by side, which should we be encouraging at this point in time in our country? And then tell us what's the major challenge of the engineering profession and how this convention would help to address it.
Good. Thank you. These are very excellent questions. You see, in the realm of development, you must plan immediate, medium, and long term. Because of JAPA, which is obvious because of the lack of the enabling environment, we will not relent not to train our professionals to be competitively globally. If we do that, then we are jettisoning our future. You know, if you take the Asian tigers, let's go back to that, to history. It is the JAPA concept that they use to their advantage. They send the talents to these Western climes, and when, even China, even India, that's what they did. When they now became gurus and became talented in skill, proficiency, and competencies, they came back. And then they domicile that capacity, and then they start rolling their own developmental agenda. We must, since having the opportunity, we have tested it at the engineering level. Nigeria is the second country in Africa, aside South Africa, that have joined the Washington Accord in the whole world, in the whole of Africa, only Nigeria and South Africa. And what that means is we are apart with Germany, with Japan, with US, in terms of the competency and capacity of engineers in the world. So if you are registered with Current in Nigeria, you will straight away go and work in any company or in any parastatal in US or in any of the European countries or Asian countries. And we are desirous to repeat this same feat at the level of the technicians, the technologists, the craftsmen, and the artisans. Because we know in the long run, this is what we need. And like I said, the second leg of the National Skill Council has allowed us to regulate even the artisans. You know, this non-formal sector, where you have millions of artisans. For instance, with this National Skill Council concept, framework, a vulcanizer in Nigeria down the road will be regulated. Okay. A vulcanizer will be regulated because it's an artisan, you know, in one of the segments, and he can be registered, he can be certified, and he can be regulated.
Okay, right. President, because of time, we just take a parting shot from Ogundiyile. I mean, this assembly now, what should we expect in just 60 seconds, 30 seconds?
Okay. Well, the assembly will give us the opportunity for engineering practitioners to sit together to develop the regulating aspect of critical part of our economy. And also, it will allow us to see or strategize on how to fill the gaps.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Fantastic. Good way to leave the point, to leave the conversation. Fill the gaps, develop homegrown solutions. Of course, we want to see that. Professor Sadiq Zubair Abubakar, President, Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria. Karen, it was a pleasure to have you again on the program. We wish you all the best in your assembly. And of course, Engineer Olu Ogundiyile, Vice President, Karen, and Chairman Organizing Committee for the 32nd Assembly of Engineers. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation, and yes, wishing you all the best.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that's Good Morning Nigeria this Monday. Thank you so much for watching. Remain tuned to the NTA. I'm Yenri John.
And I'm Ademola Ade. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day.